Ladies and gentlemen of the world, attention please. Chris Nolan's Odyssey is not a spectacle.
Christopher Nolan opens his new Odyssey with the words, "This is a story set in the apparent time of magic." And I think that phrase is the master key to the entire movie. And it means he's turned Homer's Greek comedy into a Christian tragedy. Here's how he's done it. I'm going to explain Homer's Odyssey, what Homer's Odyssey is in terms of how you would make this into a movie. Then we're going to do the same thing with Chris Nolan's Odyssey, and then we're going to go head to head, and then we'll see exactly why they're different and why Chris Nolan's Odyssey has nothing to do with Homer's Odyssey. Here's the whiteboard, cue the music, and off we go. We meet Odysseus at the Trojan War. He's been victorious. The Trojan War is over. Why? Because he created the Trojan horse. When the Trojans took it into their capital, they waited till nightfall, came out and opened the doors and let Agamemnon's troops all in. He's victorious because he's played a trick on the Trojans. So he's full of himself. He's all full of, aren't I so great? Aren't I wonderful? Agamemnon's like, oh my God, you're the best, dude. You've enabled us to win this whole thing. He's set up, he wants to go back to see his wife. That's all he wants to do. On his way back, they come to an island where there's a Cyclops. The Cyclops is a human being. He is a person who has one eye. He talks, he laughs, he loves, he makes little Cyclopses with the other Cyclopses. He's a human being and they live on this island. There is a thing here called Zeus's law. Zeus's law states this: be kind to strangers, especially people who come from the sea, because they may be gods in disguise. So if you see a beggar on the street, give them some change or just say a nice word. Don't be horrible, don't spit in their face and don't beat them up or anything like that. And if someone comes from the sea, show them hospitality. Odysseus and his men come to an island and they basically want some provisions like all sailors do. So they come to this cave and they realise there's a Cyclops in this cave and he's called Polyphemus. And the Cyclops is a human being, he has one eye, but essentially he laughs, he jokes, he's a good conversationalist, perhaps not the most high functioning kind of human being on the planet, but he's still a human being and deserves our respect. What he doesn't do very well is interpret Zeus's law. So instead of giving hospitality, feeding food to your guests, he eats his guests, which isn't very nice or hospitable. What Odysseus does is that he gets him drunk on wine, and basically during this evening of drunken debauchery with the Cyclops says, so mate, what's your name? And Odysseus says, nobody. The Cyclops falls asleep drunk. The rest of the surviving men get a hot steak and they ram it into his eye, blinding Polyphemus. And as all the sheep run out of the cave and they all escape with the sheep, and that's fine. The gods are aren't upset with that. That's an escape for Odysseus and his surviving men. When Polyphemus is screaming for help, the other Cyclopses come down and says, who did this to you? Where are they? And he said, nobody did this to me. Yeah, so the other Cyclopses go, oh, okay, so nobody did this to you, so we'll leave. The gods aren't particularly upset with that. What they are upset with is afterwards, Odysseus makes it back to the ship, they get onto the high seas, Odysseus shouts back to Polyphemus, who's now out of his cave screaming by himself, all his friends have gone, and Odysseus says, my name's not nobody, it's Odysseus, and starts bragging, showing hubris, and that hubris is what curses Odysseus. Poseidon is so angry at this guy, still hasn't learned humility, that he curses him for 10 years. No matter which direction you go in, you're never going to get home. And that's Odysseus's curse. And so he ends up, all his men basically get killed one after another in various storms and various things, showing him that he has no control over anything in this world. That's how he ends up here on Calypso's island. So now he's on Calypso's island he's kind of like trapped there. So Calypso, following Zeus's law, kind of does it a bit weirdly as well. So the Cyclops eats you, Calypso keeps you there against your will because, of course, traveller from the sea, you're supposed to give them a bit of hospitality and then send them on their way, allow them to leave. Calypso never allows you to leave, so be careful. Until he begins to remember who he was. Humility, he learns wisdom and strength, and he's basically Athena bargains with Zeus in Homer's Odyssey and says, look, we allow him to leave Calypso. He's learnt enough. He remembers who he is. He's learnt humility and strength. So he leaves the island, yeah? He basically just gets on a raft and he surrenders to the gods, and the gods return him home safely. He now has humility, his hubris is all gone, he's wise, he understands Zeus's law completely, he's a better king and ruler in Ithaca. Homer's point is really this. The same guy who's smart enough to escape the Cyclops is dumb enough to brag his way into a 10-year curse. That's the story about ego. And now here's where Nolan changes the whole moral machinery of Homer's Odyssey. Here's Chris Nolan's Odyssey, and we start off here. Instead of Zeus's law, which is be kind to travellers because they may be gods in disguise, especially people who come from the sea, now we get replaced by the Christian, the golden rule, which is do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. Something like that. But it's not Zeus's law. Zeus has been replaced by the Christian golden rule. So the flaw now for Odysseus, it's got nothing to do with hubris. He's a non-believer. He doesn't believe in the gods. And this is where the problem lies. Odysseus starts off as a non-believer, okay? He doesn't believe in God, he doesn't believe in magic, he doesn't believe in anything. And he believes that by winning the Trojan War here, okay, by winning the Trojan War, he has broken the golden rule, which is basically the sin of sin, okay, in Christianity. He's broken the golden rule. Okay, this leads to him being cursed for the 10 years, which is not how Homer's Odyssey story goes. And so he finds himself adrift with his shipmate, and they come to an island, the island of the Cyclopses, and we meet Polyphemus, who is the Cyclops. Polyphemus is this giant being, has no voice, he doesn't speak, whilst in Homer's Odyssey he's extremely eloquent. He is a lumbering monster that is eating his men. The whole idea of tricking Polyphemus to escape does not exist in this film. They just escape. And then on the high seas, all his men get murdered, get killed, get washed overboard. There's storms, there's whirlpools, there's things like that, right? Weird, monsters come from nowhere and start picking the men off the boat. We see tentacles. And he ends up in Calypso's clutches on Calypso's island. Calypso is giving him the lotus flowers to eat to sort of get rid of his PTSD of all of his memories and stuff like that. And so this part of the story in Nolan's version of the Odyssey is about him regaining his memory, regaining the fact that, oh yes, I was in this war, yes, I was instrumental in it, oh yes, I did have a child, yes, I did have a wife, oh, and they're waiting for me and I was a king. He ends up leaving Calypso's island and they go to get set adrift. Oh, and by the way, just before I forget, Samantha Morton's in here as well. She plays Cersei, and this is the pig scene, which everyone seems to think is amazing. I just think that it's kind of like, okay. Cersei essentially is played by Samantha Morton, who plays her as an abuse victim. Whereas in Homer's Odyssey, she's extremely beautiful and she's extremely charming, and that is why men can't resist her. And of course, if you go into her place and you eat her food, she will turn you into an animal. So her sister's a crow. What the men do in Nolan's film here, which is like a really big no-no, they all put their armour outside and they see all this armour around. So the question would be, well, whose is that armour? There's something wrong here. If I went to someone's house and I looked out in the back garden, they said, oh, put your bike around the back garden. And I saw 50 other bikes, all in varying degrees of decay. So some are really rusty, some are almost brand new. Then I'd be like, well, whose bikes are these? And if you don't get a reasonable answer, oh, it's a group that went off walking and they haven't come back for their bikes, you'd think, no, there's something wrong here. But anyway, none of that actually happens in Nolan's Odyssey. So that was Cersei, okay? So Cersei turns the men to pigs and then turns them back again. It's another escape, okay, from the men. He's on Calypso's island, being drugged by Charlize Theron, and you only ever see the beach. She has a magnificent house. It's a palatial palace that she has. That's why you don't want to leave. It's not because she's giving you these lotus flowers, which are drugs, it's because she has a really nice lifestyle, you know, but we only ever see her on the beach, which seems to be a bit ridiculous. He starts to remember who he is, he then wants to leave, he gets on, he makes himself a little raft, and he sails away. Now he's on the raft and he's completely surrendered himself to nature, to the sea. And he ends up going back home. Now in the film, he's sitting on the beach and he kind of says, well, where am I? And Athena is sitting next to him, kind of like an imaginary Athena. And she says, well, you're home. So the gods do exist and they brought him home. And he essentially kills all these suitors that are there. He tricks them. The whole idea of being humble is that you go from hubris to being the beggar, humble. The beggar is the most humble form you can get for a human being, isn't it? I had to be a beggar. In actual fact, when I finished the Odyssey and my journey, my sailing journey, I was actually a beggar because when I arrived in hospital, I had nothing. And the nurses and people helped me and gave me clothes and gave me food and, you know, and I was really that in such a poor state of affairs, really. So I was the beggar. When I was homeless, I was the beggar. I wasn't an actual beggar, but do you know what I mean? I was that low caste in society. So he plays a trick on the suitors. He pretends to be a beggar. He strings it because only he can string it because it's a magical bow from the gods, plucks it, and everyone stops and says, oh my God, and they know it's him, right? And so then he has a big fight sequence, which isn't very well done, and he kills all the suitors. And everyone keeps talking about Robert Pattinson being this great actor and stuff like that. You know what? All of this is just kind of nonsense, really. I suppose we have to say people are good when there is no other choice of good. You know, I don't get it. And then he leaves with his wife. He goes into the undying lands in the west. He leaves his son here, you know, who's been so his son has been faithful, who has stayed, tries to protect his mother from all these suitors, gets given Ithaca to rule. Odysseus believes that he has broken the golden rule forever, and this is the collapse of civilization. So he's left his son, very collapsing civilization. It's a corpse of a kingdom. So because he believes, but by doing the Trojan horse bit, that he has essentially broken the golden rule. Let's go head to head, Homer versus Nolan. Bing, bing, ah, boom, 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 oh, ah. Here we have Homer, here we have Nolan. And so the original sin is about, in Homer's Odyssey, it's about bragging his name to Poseidon. Odysseus brags his name, Poseidon gets cursed. Nolan, it's the Trojan horse itself, breaks the golden rule, civilization is about to end. Divine law, which is hospitality to strangers, it's tribal and it's fixable. You know, if you mess up, it's all right, you just feed them, you be kind to people, be nice to them. In Nolan's The Odyssey, the golden rule is universal and it's unbreakable. It's universal and unbreakable. So in other words, once the golden rule is broken, it's broken. In Zeus's law, you know what, if you don't treat people really kind of okay, when they arrive at your door, it's okay. Put a feast on them, give them some nice food, make them nice breakfast. It'll be fine. You can fix all that. Okay, so the arc of the story here in Homer's Odyssey, it goes from pride to humility. In Nolan's, it's disbelief to faith. And that's the Christian values coming in. Okay, the climax. In Homer's Odyssey, Odysseus strings the bow, kills the suitors. In Nolan's, Odysseus surrenders and gives up the throne. And in the end, in Homer's Odyssey, restoration and civilization is restored. In Nolan's, the civilization is ruined and abandoned. What Homer gives you is a homecoming story of a man who restores his civilization and saves it. Chris Nolan gives you a story of a man who breaks his civilization and then abandons it. Homer's guy proves himself with the bow, and Nolan's guy proves himself by putting it down. So, the wink for the audience, the apparent magic, tells the atheist in the audience, I don't believe in Zeus either, but I believe in moral consequence as if it were physics. Homer's hubris, Nolan's moral transgression, Homer's tribal hospitality law, Nolan's universal golden rule, Homer's humility, Nolan's faith, Homer's restoration, Nolan's exile. Odysseus isn't a Christ figure, he's the opposite. His faith saves him personally, but it doesn't save the world. And the kingdom is a corpse left for his son to inherit. Nolan's Odyssey is not inspiring in any way, shape, or form. Casting aside Viking ships aside, my final verdict on Chris Nolan's The Odyssey, whether you should go and see it or not. Oh, that reminds me.